Perfect. Perfect. So we're
This
doing
meeting is being recorded.
okay, so we're doing Psalm 23, and whenever it says Mizmor LeDavid, it means that it's his song, okay, and it's coming from his heart, like I said. And see, let's take a look at the very first sentence. So it says Mizmor LeDavid, Hashem ro'i lo echsor. Okay, so the Lord is my shepherd, and I lack nothing. So let's get an understanding of what that means. Okay, so it's interesting. Why do you think, of all things, David Amelech would say about Hashem is that he identifies him as a shepherd? So why is that something that David Amelech would do? Like, you can identify Hashem as a million things, like a watch guard and a king and a this. Like, why of all things is Hashem a shepherd?
Because a shepherd looks out for people, for sheep, for.
Okay, it's very interesting. Also, that would be something that resonates with David Amelech because he was a shepherd too, right? So being a shepherd in Judaism, you'll see like often Jewish leaders, who do you know also was a shepherd? Anybody else that you know was a shepherd?
Moshe.
Yes. Okay, Moshe was a shepherd, right? That's how he sees the burning bush, right? A little sheep runs off and he walks past and he sees this bush that's consistently burning but not being destroyed. So yes, and really it's very interesting. Like when you think about it on Sukkot, what do we say? Who comes to visit us every night of Sukkot? A different?
Yeah, the mishpazim.
Yes, and those ushpazim, good. Yes, a different shepherd. Yes, they're called the 7 shepherds of the Jewish people. So one thing that's interesting about sheep is that sheep have incredibly poor eyesight. So sheep have a very difficult time, like, knowing where they're going. So really, I think that that's a really good parable to us. I feel like we sometimes journey in life and we get very distracted. We get very lost. It's like we've lost our perspective and our sight on things. And we need the shepherd to guide us. Now, it's interesting because David Amelech, like really what's interesting when they talk about Moshe and David, like they'll say that they were incredible shepherds. They were extremely kind. They were very thorough. They really would, defend their flocks. And so if they're using this analogy to Hashem, then it's David Amelech saying, just like the sheep that I, led, they put their faith in me. I was their eyes. I was their perspective. I took them where they should eat. I put them to sleep where they should go to sleep, right? And they trusted in me. So too, I'm like this sheep who really would flounder without you, Hashem. And I trust in you. So it's interesting where it says here, like if you look at the second line, does anyone here have the Tehillim in front of them? Because it would be nice for other people to sort of read the line and good. Could you read it? Good. Okay, so Marie, can you read it in Hebrew and then in English, or just in English, or whichever way you're more comfortable?
I prefer to do it in English.
Okay, perfect.
Not good. In lush meadows, he lays me down. Beside tranquil waters, he leads me.
Perfect. Okay, so what do you think that means? That he lays me down in green pastures? What does that mean?
He looks for the suitable place where we need to be.
Yes. Okay, so good. Okay, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Marie. So exactly. He's taking you to green pastures. He lies you down in these suitable places, and then he gives you water. Like this is like the idea of, giving us nutrients, taking care of us, and, putting us into these pleasant places. But what's interesting is that sometimes Hashem leads you to places that you don't really feel are such green pastures or are such pleasant waters. So what David Amelech is telling you is that they are. Why are they green pastures and why is it pleasant waters? Because God knows what you need. And if he put you there, right, just like David Amelech, when he was the shepherd, right, he would take his flock to certain places. And the flock has no idea, and they might be thinking, "Hey, I'd rather be taking a drink over there across the street." The only problem is, if you cross the street, you may get killed. So sometimes you think it's better water over there, but you don't realize it's the rapids. Right. And sometimes you think, "Oh, this is so boring, same old. And Hashem is trying to tell you, you know what? Same old and boring might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Right. This might just be the place you belong. Okay. So what's very interesting is that David HaMelech, it's like his faith in Hashem as a shepherd that makes the places where he is sweet and good, regardless of what other people may be thinking. Like, on the surface, it might be looking like, this is pretty terrible. But David HaMelech says, no, it's all good. Because just like when I was a shepherd and I took my sheep, and they're running in the other direction, and I'm trying to tell them, no, here's where the grass is that's good, right? That grass might look, great over there, but guess what? It belongs to somebody else. Or what we always say, right? Like I told you, the grass is always greener on the other side. And I told you, like when I was on the farm, it comes from the horses. Because no matter where you put the fence, like it's incredible to watch. Wherever you put the fence, the horse is trying to get his head over the fence to eat the grass on the other side. So let's say here was the fence and the horse was over here. And he kept like leaning his head over to get more grass. So the farmer wants to be nice and he moves the fence. Guess what? The horse leans over, tries to get the grass on the other side. So that's kind of who we are. Okay. So here, David HaMelech is saying, like, we have to be trusting in Hashem. And when they talk about how David HaMelech was a shepherd, like this is an interesting idea. Okay. So imagine there was a flock full of different sheep of all ages. So there were the young ones, like baby sheep, right? Then there were the middle-aged, like the adult sheep that were young and hardy, right? And then there were the older sheep. So David HaMelech wouldn't let everybody run out at the same time to eat in the pasture. It was very, very concerning. So what he did was he would take the youngest ones first, and they would eat the little tips of the grass, right? Then the hardier ones would go last. The next group that came out would be older sheep. So the young ones have little teeth. They can only eat the top. The older ones, they can chew on the stuff that isn't so hard because it's in the middle, right? And then the young hardy ones, the adult young ones, they go and they take the rough, tough stuff. You know why? Because they have the teeth that can take it. So what's David HaMelech trying to tell you? What's David HaMelech trying to tell you with that? That as a shepherd, he knows which sheep can take which grass, which really, like, what does that translate to us? In other words, like Hashem is that kind of shepherd, and what's he doing? What's he doing?
Well, he's looking for suitable places for his flock.
Right, for each one of them. In other words, no one is going to be challenged by the test they can't take. In other words, the person who has like the weaker, reality, and he couldn't take a greater test, gets exactly what he needs, the top of the grass. And some people, they have a bigger soul, a hardier muscle. They're more exercised. They're more mature philosophically. They're more mature in their Yiddishkeit. So guess what? Hashem gives you from the tough grass. Do you see? That's what he's trying to show you. When he calls Hashem is my shepherd, then we need to know what that title means. It means I've really got your back. And it means I really understand your needs. And it means wherever you are is a good place, because that's where I put you, right? And what does it also mean? A shepherd is always watching over you, okay? A shepherd can't keep his eyes off the sheep because there's so many enemies and so many distractions and so many ways that the sheep can get lost, okay? So it's a very beautiful idea. So they compare this idea of the shepherd leading his sheep to the concept of when the Jewish people were in the wilderness. So what led the Jewish people in the wilderness? Does anybody know? Like they would camp in a certain place and then they would move and then they would camp and then they would this. What was it that told them to get up, to get moving, to stop? Does anybody know?
Was it the clouds?
Yes. Barb. 2 stars. Yeah, wow, very proud of you. So yes, it was the clouds of glory, we call them, right? The clouds of glory that Hashem gave to protect the Jewish people in the merit of Aaron. So what do they say? It wasn't so simple. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going on a vacation, so you have 2 weeks to pack up. It's like you watch the cloud, and the next morning the cloud's saying, okay, everybody, we're going. And you're like, oh my gosh, let's pack. And then they run, and then you get to another place. Okay, unpack. Oh, guess what? The cloud of glory is moving again. Like, you have to have a lot of faith. Okay, you have to have a lot of bitachon, a lot of trust. Like, Hashem is taking you on your journey. Anybody agree to that one? Yes. It's the clouds of glory that keep on moving, right? I'm just looking at Barb and laughing because during COVID, the clouds of glory moved her across the street, right? So you didn't end up in Thornhill. You were on the other side of Steel. So that when all the hairdressers opened in Thornhill, Barb was still on the other side of the fence,
But
right?
I learned Torah every single day with a pen and paper, and I started studying everything.
Yes. So do you see, like, it was the greatest move you could have. But when you're looking at it from the outside, you're thinking like, what? Like, Hashem, how could you do that? If I just walked across the street, I could open my salon. I could, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost bizarre. Do you know, like, what is it? Like 10 feet? Whatever this crosswalk was. Like, that's incredible. So that's what David HaMelech is trying to say. Okay? David HaMelech is trying to say, like, wherever Hashem puts you, you go where Hashem takes you, you stop where Hashem leaves you. Do you know what I mean? And it's a reality. So he's saying, like, I lack nothing. I don't fight it. Right? I think, like, I see it sometimes, and I don't blame people, but we can't fight our reality, right? We can work with our reality, but by not accepting it, right, you can make it better. I'm not saying you can't, but you can't make something better until you accept where you are. And even if Hashem has put you in a reality, let's say he put you in a pasture that doesn't have a lot of health and you're not healthy, that doesn't mean, you know what I mean? I'm not saying, okay, you just give up. No, you say, you know what, Hashem, here is where you put me. This is not where I would want to stay, right? Let me grow and learn from what I have to do in this matzav, but then Hashem, shepherd me out of here. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But you're not like, this is crazy, this is nuts, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. It's where Hashem puts you. There is a green pasture there. There is a growth there. So, like, let's take what Barb said. It's perfect, right? So yeah, you're right. You weren't able to be a hairdresser at that time. But guess what? You had a greener pasture. You got to be a Talmud Chacham, okay? You got to be a Torah student, right? Which, prepares you for everything in life, right? So it's a nice idea. Like, I like that idea, okay? So wherever we travel, according to Hashem's will, and that's what it means by my Lord is the Lord is my shepherd, and I lack nothing. He takes me into green pastures and into still waters, and that's where he wants me to, learn from. Okay, right? And sometimes you'll stay there for a long time. Sometimes you may stay there for a very, very short time, right? But what you know is wherever you are, you can rise to the occasion and be the best you that you can be. That's what's happening. That's what's going on there. Okay, so let me see. Okay, and it's very interesting. So it says here, Benos, let's look at the next sentence. Oh, it is. Benos desha yarbitseni. So the word yarbitseni means like, he makes me crouch there. He makes me remain there. And sometimes you have to remain in that place, right? Even if you don't want to be there. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes and Hashem making you stay there is for your good. Not always so simple, right? Not always so simple. But for us to understand, like, wherever he's put you, like, you're like, I want to get out of here. And Hashem's saying, no, 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 no. This is right now the place you need to be, the place you need to grow, the place you need to meet your tests and your challenges and your growth. This is where it is. So don't run away because there's nowhere to run to, right? I didn't tell you it's time to move. Here is where you have to stay, right? And so he was saying, like I said before, like David HaMelech used to, would say, like the sheep wouldn't understand why I took them to this pasture and not to the other pasture, when really this was the best one. Okay. Okay. So it says here, when it says, Mizmor LaDavid Hashem Ro'i Lo Echsor, I lack nothing. So this is an important, it's scary, this sometimes. People get anxiety, people get anxious, they get worried, what's going to be the future, what's going to be this, what's going to be that. So David HaMelech, like you can imagine the kind of life that David HaMelech had would be probably one of the most anxiety-provoking realities that any of us could have. Like we said, he suffered from every crisis that a person could think of, right? His son rebels against him, he's always on the run, he's got so much stuff that you can be so anxious about. People were trying to murder him. Like, thank Hashem, I don't think any of us are on the wanted list. Okay, could you imagine, like there's posters, kill David HaMelech, join in the David HaMelech hunt. Like that's not a simple story, right? But David HaMelech kept saying, Hashem is my shepherd. Hashem is in control. Hashem loves me. If I have Hashem, then I have all the strength and capacity that I need, and I'll be okay. I'll make it through it. And sometimes when you get like these anxious thoughts, right? And we start thinking, what's going to happen? What's this? And what's that? And blah, blah, blah. Only this, if only that. It's like we have to like, Hashem Roi Lo Echsor. Hashem is my shepherd. I lack nothing. It's a good couple words to memorize. Hashem Roi Lo Echsor. Like let your mind go there first. That's all. Then you'll think about it. But that should be the first, statement. Hashem Roi Lo Echsor. Hashem is my shepherd. I lack nothing. Who said it? David HaMelech. He walked his walk. It wasn't someone who never went through something. This was the person, the king of all kings of challenges. That's who David HaMelech was, right? He wrote this Tehillim for us. He created a DNA in us, right? That's real, that we have from him. We have his strength. It's a good idea, like Hashem Roi Lo Echsor, Hashem Roi Lo Echsor, Hashem Roi Lo Echsor. Hashem is my shepherd, I lack nothing. Like to really learn it as a mantra to life, all right? And in fact, this is what they say. What's the trademark of a great person? Of like, well, if you wanted to talk about a person who's very developed, like a very developed, a mature Jewish soul. What's a developed Jewish soul? How do you test a mature, developed Jewish soul? So under a lot of anxious, like anxiety-provoking situation, how would you expect them to react? If you were a mature, developed...
Hey, Baruch Hashem, I'm going to handle it. It's okay.
Good. So they say, it's very interesting. They say a mature, developed Jewish soul is always in equilibrium. So it's in an equilibrium, not only, it's very funny, okay? So not only when, there's a challenge, but even when there is a simcha. Okay, now that sounds funny, but like even when there's a simcha, like a mazel tov, yeah, I'm so happy. It's not, like it's not like a Muppet, where they're just like, woohoo, everything's crazy, everything's in an extreme. They're in an equilibrium. Because it's very funny. Like I was a client of mine, their daughter got engaged, and it took time, like shidduchim is a real trip, okay? So now the daughter got engaged. So before the daughter got engaged, they're so anxious. Okay, now the daughter's engaged and they have to make a wedding, and what are they? So anxious. Okay, so they were saying like they feel like they're not winning, like either they were worried about her getting married or they're worried about this wedding, you know what I mean? But so what is it like? Like it's deep breath, like Hashem Roi Lo Echsor. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, right? I'm lacking nothing. Why was it David HaMelech was able to say I'm lacking nothing? Because he didn't want a lot. So he was never like, it's very interesting. David HaMelech, like as we're going to go on in the Tehillim, he says to Hashem, you know what? I didn't really want to be king. It's funny how like there's so many people who want to chase fame and fortune and they want to be king. You know what I mean? They want it so badly. In politics, you could see a lot of people who want to be king, but David HaMelech was like, I don't want to be king. I don't need to be a king. I was very happy, David HaMelech said to Hashem, just being a shepherd, taking care of the sheep, davening, learning Torah. I don't need my name up in lights. So it's very interesting. Like, you see how Hashem works. The person who doesn't want honor, what does it say? Honor will run after them. The person who runs after honor, the Mishnah says, honor will run away from them. Okay, it's just an interesting idea. Okay, now let me see. Yeah, we said that. So we said the trademark is the person of, right, we said who has the equilibrium, right? And he doesn't, like, it's interesting. It just like stays a steady ship. Right now, said that. Okay, okay. Okay. So now, what does the Chovos HaLevavos say on bitachon? So that's what we want to see, because really, the person who has that equilibrium and the person who has that steady ship is the person who has bitachon. How are we going to get bitachon? We have to practice. We have to put these words in our mouth. Okay, even if you aren't 100% convinced, you keep saying it, because the way you say it is the way you believe it, right? Hamanti ka'adaber, right? You believe it 90%, right? Then there comes that challenge. It makes you like, oh, I can't. It's so hard to believe that this is what Hashem would want. You say it anyway. Hashem roi lo echsor. Kamzu l'tova. It's all for the best. God knows what he's doing. This is my setup. Hashem is setting this up just to test me and see who I can be. Do you know what I mean? All of this has to be repeated in your head over and over. I think there's 150 chapters of Tehillim. What do you think every single one of them is? The message of bitachon. Let's just get real. Whichever Tehillim you pick, wherever you put your finger on the Tehillim, that's what it is. A message of bitachon. Why would David HaMelech have to say this 150 times? Because he had a life that challenged his bitachon 150 times, if not more, right? Okay, so now, it's so interesting. It's like, when you watch a kid in an amusement park, or when we're on the roller coasters, right? Like, we're all going, okay, like we're all screaming, we're all yelling, we're all this, then you see these people who like go on these roller coasters and they go on these stuff and they're like, so why are those people? Because they've been on it 100 times and they know it never fails. Okay, they know it comes to an end. They've already practiced this. That's what we need to do. You see what I mean? It's like, I'm going to be real with all of us. I think we've all been on the roller coaster of life more than once. Raise your hand. Okay. Anybody feel that way? Okay. So it would be good for us to realize that, like, Baruch Hashem, we've all landed on our 2 feet. Right? We've landed on our 2 feet. But just remember, like, Hashem's there. He puts us back on our 2 feet. Okay, so let me see what the Chovos HaLevavos had to say. He said every single human being, it's very important to know this, is built in, within you, is a concept of bitachon. Every single one of us needs to trust in something. Everybody. There's no such thing as someone who doesn't need to trust in something. You can't have relationships. You can't even live in this world. If you really felt that you trusted no one, you would be paranoid and you wouldn't be able to do a thing. In fact, there are people who suffer from that, right? Extreme paranoia. They can't go anywhere. They can't go outside. They think someone's going to hit them there. Someone's going to, like, it's terrible, right? So everybody has something that they will believe in. So Chovos HaLevavos tells us the question is what? Okay, so stop for a second and think, like, what do people trust that will help them? Trust that, this is going to make a difference in my life. This is going to change me. This is for the better. Outside of Hashem. I'm not talking about people who are religious or have bitachon in Hashem. I would just want to show you that there is this concept of bitachon, right? No matter who you are. So who is it that, like, what do people trust in?
I'd say like higher powers. Maybe.
Okay, so they trust in, like, if they collected the power, if they become the president, if they become the CEO, then they're, that's it. They made it, and now they trust in their might. Okay, anything else?
Having a lot of confidence.
Yes, So they can, trust in their, like, in arrogance, like they just trust in themselves, like they're the master of their destiny, those types of people. What else do people put a lot of trust in?
Money, maybe.
Yes. Okay. I think money is probably one of the biggest ones. The more money you have, the more powerful I am, the more I can control people, the more I can this, the more I can that. Right? So the Chovos HaLevavos says that there are people who will do that. You'll trust in your rich uncle. You'll trust in technology. They're going to save us. They're sick and they'll tell you, oh, the doctors, I've got to get the biggest specialist. I don't need to pray to God. That's stupid. It's only the specialist that will save me. Like these kinds of ideas. Okay. So people, regardless of who they are, there is going to be a trust put into somewhere. Okay. And how are you going to trust into that thing? The more you believe it's reliable, the more you believe it's good, the more you believe it will help you, the more you will trust in it. Okay. So what's really interesting is that all of those things that we just mentioned, their reliability is very fleeting. Money is here today and gone tomorrow, right? Your specialist, you can get in, you can't get in, you have to pay him. Who knows? He's had a good day, he's had a bad day. Who knows what your surgery will be like? So it's interesting when we speak to each other. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, we're very God-fearing people, right? We have a bitachon in Hashem. You see a bigger picture to your life. You see a bigger picture to your destiny. It's very hard, like when you're dealing with very secular people. I remember when I was in the hospital and Jody was really, really sick. Like she wasn't conscious anymore. She was just, the machines were breathing for her. Jody was really pretty much gone, right? And, one of her relatives were in the room and she's a very, very secular person. And, she turned to me and she said, so, see, look at your prayers. What were they really worth? It's very hard to be able to explain to
she lived person. At least another year.
Yeah, who knows? For sure, she really had it right. It was maybe more with not so much pain and so many wonderful things. But you have a vision to see it, right? So we have a vision that's always going to be like at the end of the story, right? When you're looking at life, your vision is always going to see that Hashem put me in the right pasture. Because even when you leave this world, you're in the right pasture. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Regardless of the situation, but I'm just trying to show you the difference between the eyes. Like she was looking at it like, just like the doctors failed and they couldn't cure her cancer, so did your prayers fail because they didn't cure the cancer either. But we don't see it that way. We have a complete different vision of the destiny of this person and how many years they had and what they could accomplish in that time and what they did accomplish. Do you see what I'm trying to tell everyone? This is why David HaMelech can speak this way and why other people can't. Do you see? You need to build this over time. And then you need to make these decisions. And in Judaism, the decision isn't made like, I believe just because the rabbi told me. I believe because I've studied. You study history, you study this, you study that. Now you see how the world, once upon a time, like we're doing all this afterlife class, right? Once upon a time, there's so many people like, what? There's no afterlife. Oh, now that there's 30 million near-death experiences, now everyone's like, like now there's something to prove it. People were big atheists, doctors who never believed in this, who they themselves went through near-death experiences, right? Now they've turned the corner. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So it's not, but you have to be open to want to hear and want to understand, because if you're too busy trusting in your own power, you don't have any space to think differently, right? So that's why we have to be like, when David HaMelech is saying this, he's really giving you a gift. And I'm going to be honest with us, like if we really thought about it, I don't think we're even a fingernail as brilliant as David HaMelech was. So it's not that we're reading Tehillim that was written by a, simple person who, who had no strength and no control. So they kind of went, oh, okay, let's believe in God because there's no way I can manage my life. You see you know what I mean? Like, right? It's like important for us to really like think about this. Who is telling you this? Right? This is David HaMelech, not just anybody. Okay, so what does he say? Okay, so the main fundamental gift, right, that you get when you have bitachon, it gives you a sense of security and purpose and ability. Okay, so what's the security, what's the purpose, and what's the ability that we feel when we say, okay, you know, Hashem is our shepherd and I lack nothing. He's leading me to where I'm supposed to be. Even if on the surface it doesn't look pretty, it's the green pasture. Even if the water looks like it's all foggy and isn't going to taste good, it's the water that will give me the greatest nutrients. So what is the purpose you feel when you have bitachon? What's the purpose you feel when you have bitachon? Okay, unmute.
You feel more tranquil.
Okay, you feel empowered, you feel more tranquil, because why?
Because you know you're not alone.
You know you're not alone, and you know what else? You have a mission. Everything that's happening to you is not just an accident. It's not tough luck. It's not, what a shame. This is disgusting. What a tragedy. This is terrible. This is awful. It may feel like that. It may seem like that, but you know there's something much more deep. There's something much more meaningful. There's so many more layers to the story, right? And that you yourself can be part of the process. You're not I hate to use this word, but you're not a victim of circumstance. If you have bitachon, you are not a victim of circumstance. So what do you think I mean when I say that? You're not a victim of circumstance.
You haven't been pointed out and like, you got that.
You're going to get it. And what else does it mean?
It gives you strength.
Yes, because
from what you've been
yes,
getting.
Excellent. You're not a victim of circumstance. Hashem put you there, and you, with Hashem's help, are going to be able to go beyond this scenario. You're going to be able to grow from this scenario. You're going to be able to be a role model from this scenario. You're going to be able to earn your olam haba. You're going to be able to pump your, soul muscles. You're going to be able to change. Okay.
It also gives you a sense that you have a choice of how to behave and how to grow and how to be with it.
Beautiful. You're not locked in as a victim. It's not the end of the story. That's what I think is like, that's what bitachon gives you. Okay. So it gives you the purpose. What's the security that you get? What's the security that you get?
That you know you're going to overcome this. Because
okay. You will overcome this in the way that it has to be overcome. See,
and that there's a purpose to it, that it's not.
Yes, and you can overcome it. The security is that with Hashem's help, I will be able to face this challenge. It doesn't mean the challenge will necessarily go away. Do you know what I mean? It means I will be able to accept and live with the circumstances, or maybe the circumstances will change. Whatever will be, I will make it. Do you know what I mean? Like the background picture can be whatever it has to be. It could be flowers and sunshine, or it can be rain and thunder. But regardless, I'm secure in the fact that I will be okay because Hashem will help me get through.
Move forward.
Like, right. Right. These are big things. These are big things. They're huge. And we have to talk about them now when Baruch Hashem things are pretty much okay. Do you know what I mean? So that we have the fortitude, or we can help other people, right? So this is the thing that I can't express enough how fortunate we are, like how grateful we have to be. That's why these are songs by David HaMelech. He's just so happy. You know what, Hashem? Yes, my life can look terrible, but you have given me the strength, and I know I'm connected to you, so I'm not losing it. Right? And I'm not left with a million questions and a big empty hole in my heart, right? Okay, good. Okay, now. Okay, so what's very nice when they say the security and a confidence, there's a very nice idea in Yiddishkeit that we have a confidence in Hashem that he will help us and he'll even give us more. Like it's not like, it's like we don't have to, like Hashem loves us very unconditionally. So it's not like, you know, he'll just give you enough and that's it. He'll give you excess. And that's a nice thing for us to tune into. And the more you believe, right? What do we say? The more you believe, the more the energy you put out, the greater your mitzvah of bitachon, the greater the connection, right? So the greater the chance for this extra bracha is. So it's a very nice idea. Like it's hard. I really feel like we're wired so often to just see what we don't have. So the person who was telling me that, you know, now they have anxiety over the wedding. So they went to get the gowns and the this and the that. And it's hard for them. They don't have a lot of money, right? So they're running to these different gemachs and they're running here and they're running there and they're running there and running here. She was saying that was getting so frustrating until she finally said, what am I doing? I want to stop. And she started saying, I am only working with an attitude of gratitude, right? I was praying for all these years for my daughter to get engaged. Now I'm just sitting here fetching about every little thing. Like she just said, I'm happy. We have feet. We can walk. We could go to the store. We could, you know what I'm saying? Like it was such a game changer. So this is the idea, like almost a gratitude that you have this concept of bitachon and that you, Baruch Hashem, chose to grow and learn it, right? And be in it. So it's really a really beautiful idea. Okay, so we said that security, okay, and that confidence that you can rely on Hashem, that he loves you, and that he could even give you more good than you even think you deserve, okay? All right, and what also, which is good, is that Hashem wants to help you from the goodness of his heart. So it's not like, I think, because we live in a world of people, right? And people are people. You know, like people can do good, but only for a length of time. And then sometimes they conk out. Okay. You know, like you can have a guest come to your house, but after 2 weeks, it's like, oh, when are you guys catching your flight again? You know, but you don't, right? But Hashem can take the Jewish people for 40 years through the desert. And he doesn't go, okay, guys, like, can you find another God? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like important for us to realize that. So we need a lot of security, and like Hashem loves me, wants the best for me. You know, I'm going to show him, I believe in him. I believe he can do these things for me. And that is going to encourage this relationship. And I don't have to worry about, do I deserve it? And don't I deserve it? And aren't I a terrible person? Why would God want to help me? And I did that. Like sometimes I hear people tell me this and my heart completely breaks. You know, I talk to people and I say, like, you know, you're doing good. Like they're having hardships, but they're doing better. And they can't see it. Nope, I'm not. God hates me. There's no reason for him to like me. Like, so painful. It's like, you know, do you ever like pick your baby up and go, I love you? No, you love your baby, right? Even if they cry and they do all kinds of crazy things, you love them. You don't look at them and say, I have no reason to like you. Right? So the same thing, Hashem doesn't pick up, you're his baby. He's not looking at you going, I have no reason to like, you know, not to like you. You got to really build this bitachon in these areas. Okay, so you know that he's doing it from his heart. And now this is another one. Okay, so what's another niggle? What's another thing that drives us crazy when it comes to bitachon? You look at your life and you go, Baruch Hashem. What about tomorrow? Right? You start thinking about the future. What about this? What's going to happen? What about if I get sick? What about if I this? What about, right? So what's the boteach b'Hashem? It's an equilibrium. Like you helped me in the past, I have faith you'll help me in the future. That's it. Like you helped me in the past, I have faith you'll help me in the future. Right? Like with parnasa, with business, with money. No, one day you have the client, next day they're moving out of town. Right? This client who came to you 300 times a year just said, guess what? I'm leaving. Right? Everyone has their ups and their downs, right? But we're not going to worry about it, because just like that's true that a client moved out of town, so too did Hashem send you a new one. In all of our lives, as many times as we have felt like really trapped, and Baruch Hashem, right? It went fine. So thinking about
writing in my car tonight just before this talk, and I was saying I can't believe it when it was COVID and I was closed down for 7 months. 2 days before, I got a phone call from the government on my cell phone. I'm like, yeah, hi, what do you want? They said, we have $18,000 for you. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I forgot when I moved when I got divorced, I got $359 a month for 2 children. And I forgot to tell them I was moving because I figured it wasn't even much money, but it came exactly at that point.
Wow.
That's what happened.
That's a beautiful, I hope everybody got that story, because
I didn't tell them that I moved. I didn't think it was a lot. I didn't know, but that's why.
That's an incredible story. That's what it means by Hashem puts you in the pasture when he's supposed to put you in the pasture. Yeah. So when you really needed the money, like otherwise you would have had the money, you would have spent it, Barb.
I would have been gone. So
right, be gone. So now Hashem knew, I'm going to hold this money back. You're not even realizing it. And then exactly when you need it, he goes, here it is. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's a perfect example. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. So that's what we have to do. Instead of taking this big worry that we love to do, all of us, there's not one of us who doesn't want to worry about the future, right? And as you're aging, you want to worry about it 10 times more. If you worried about it when you were 30 or 40, imagine what's going on now. So we're just worrying about it more. Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So you know what we're going to say? We're going to all be good. Hashem loves us. And like he made it good for us in the past, he's going to make it good for us in the future. You know, Hashem, I trust. You gave me good health in the past, you'll mitzvah Hashem give me health in the future. That's how I'm going to look at it. Instead of, that's what bitachon is trying to teach you. Keep an equilibrium. You live in the moment. The future isn't, it's going to be good. All good. Why? Because you love me. That's it. That's all. Nice and innocent, just like a little kid. When a little kid trusts in their parents, doesn't nudge them, doesn't diss them, doesn't drive them crazy, knows that it's all going to be okay, the parent feels like $1 million because it's a compliment to the parent. It's a trust in the parent. When you feel someone is relying on you, then you feel like giving it to them. When they say, you know what, Daddy, I trust you're going to give me what I need. You're right, Bubala. That's great. Yeah, I'm going to want to give you what you need. But sometimes giving you what you need is not what you want. It's what you need. Okay? Those are two different things, right? So either way, you have that equilibrium. Okay, so you have that amazing bitachon. Okay? And also, this is a beautiful one, that no matter what circumstance you are in, Hashem is with you. Okay, so whatever circumstance you are in, Hashem is with you, even if he put you in it. Okay, doesn't matter. He put you in it and you're in with him. Wherever you are with Hashem. Okay, that's what you have to know. So that's what he says. When he said over here, David HaMelech says, I just want to make sure I say the right thing. He says, Nafshi Yishovev, Yimcheni b'ma'aglei tzedek leman shimcha. He renews my life. He guides me in right paths as befits his name. Okay, so this is an interesting idea. So let's just take a look at this. First of all, he renews my life. So what does that mean? You know, what does it mean he renews my life?
Every day you wake up.
Yeah, every day you wake up. And also sometimes, like, you know, renews your life could mean physically, it could mean emotionally, it could mean spiritually, it could mean in relationships, it can mean in so many ways, right? Like when we get down in the dumps and then you feel better, right? And then Hashem lifts you up and the right person talks to you, you get the check for the $18,000. That renews your life, you know? Right? All these kinds of things, right? So it's beautiful. Okay.
Gives you the strength to carry on.
Yes, excellent. Okay, excellent, Marie. Marie says he gives you the strength to carry on. She's 100% right. You're 100% right. That's what it means to renew your life. So it's interesting that it says the magle tzedek. Ma'agal is a circle. Okay, so it's very funny. He renews my life, right? And he guides me in the right paths, but they go round in a circle, right? So what does it mean, like he renews my life in a circle? It means like things go up.
Sometimes up, or you down, inside, or this side.
Exactly. So that's very
Every
important.
It's at different level all the time.
Right.
That's why we can help.
Right. So, right. That's beautiful. Like when someone's up, the other one's down, down and up. And this way everyone's there for each other and Hashem is there for you. But I think it's important for us to understand, like this is the thing about Judaism. It does not promise you a rose garden. It promises you a great journey. And it tells you you're going to go up a hill and down the hill and across the hill and this the hill. And that's what it tells you. It does not say this is going to be a smooth path, but you can have a smooth attitude. Your attitude can stay in an equilibrium, but your life will move up and down. Okay, that is the truth. Now it's going to be up to you how much of that equilibrium you're going to be able to hold. Right. So I was laughing. I give this class on Shabbos about, everything that's happening to you is really a setup from Hashem and it's really a challenge. So, when you see you're being challenged, like don't lose your cool. Just realize, Hashem is setting you up. Because if you knew, that you were being set up, you have a much better chance of trying to pass the test. Right. So I gave the class and I said, so anything that frustrating happens, what's the first thing that goes to your head? It's a setup from Hashem. Hashem is putting me in a test. I'm going to be fine. I'll be able to pass it. It's all from Hashem and he'll help me. Okay. So on Sunday, I was supposed to go to, I promised somebody I was doing them a favor, all right, they were doing me a favor. They were going to take my car for me to one of my kids far away. And I was going to drive them to work. Like I would drive them to work and then they would take that car and they would drive it, to Hamilton. All right. And it was like a big favor that I was so blessed that they said yes, right? Saved me a big trip to drop off that car. And I really wanted to be responsible, make sure that they got to work on time and everything. So the whole week I was having all this trouble with people parking behind my car. Okay. I was trying not to be frustrated. Oh, from Hashem, it's a setup. I am going to pass this test. I'm going to be kind, whatever. Okay. So I was a little kind. I could have been more kind. Okay. But then on Sunday, I'm all ready, right? And I have it all timed perfectly. And I get dressed, I go outside. So not only did they not park, this wasn't an issue of parking behind my car. They took it. They took the car that I needed to have dropped off. Yeah. And on top of it, I had promised that person, I'm coming to pick you up right now, right? So that you can make it to work and take my car. And the person had told the boss, I'm not driving with you to Hamilton. I have my own car. I'm standing on my driveway going, this is, and I just picked up the phone and blasted everybody who I thought took my car. Totally mucked the test. I felt so bad. Okay. After I was thinking to myself, you see, you can give these classes from here till tomorrow, but if it's that trigger point that they get you on, it takes so much to control yourself. I told these people later that I really apologized because they didn't know whatever it was. I just apologized later. But what I'm trying to tell you is bitachon and all of these concepts, they're great. And in theory, they're so beautiful. But when you have to put them into practice, I just want you to know that just trying is phenomenal. And even if you fail in it, and then you look back and you try to, make up for it, that's phenomenal. We are not going to, this is what I love about you. What you're going to have bitachon in, that Hashem never wanted you necessarily to succeed. He just wanted you to try. He was not asking for impossible success because impossible success is impossible. He was trying to just say, I want to see you try. If you're on this class and you're trying to learn about bitachon, that's huge. So, sometimes you may blow your fuse. Like I blew my fuse. I couldn't believe it. Like they had taken the car, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? The person who I had to pick up, who was doing me the favor, was the biggest tzaddikus. Like they kept saying, calm down. It's going to be okay. Shem will get me there when I have to be there. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? So this is what we have to appreciate, that this is, it's going to take stuff, it's going to take hard work, right? So it's going to take Hashem having to renew your life. It's going to be Hashem putting you on these challenges up and down. And it says that he does it lema'an shemo. What does that mean? He does all this to us. Hes your bitachon, puts you on these things up and down in order, like for the sake of his name. Okay, so what do we always say about a name? Like a name in Judaism is not arbitrary. They say that people would go to the Chazon Ish, okay? He's a great Torah scholar in Eretz Yisrael. They would go to the Chazon Ish and they say, oh, we're all mixed up. We don't know what name to give our child. And the Chazon Ish would look them in the eye and he'd say, you know what? This is the only time you don't need to go to a rabbi. Because whatever name you are going to think about is the name that Hashem wanted you to give that child. You get like nevuah when it comes to a name. You almost get like a prophetic, a reality when it comes to a name. And you will see how many times like people will name and there's mistakes at the name, but that was the name the kid was supposed to get. So I always tell this story. I don't know if everybody remembers it. Rabbi Mendel and Leora, right? So when they wanted to name their baby after Moira's sister, Maddie Leventhal, who was like such a tzedekah. She was a very special person for all of us, great friend to everybody, and a doula and a midwife. She was phenomenal. So her name was Meira Leah, okay? So Leora wanted to name Meira, but she didn't want the second name Leah, okay? So she was telling Rabbi Mendel 10 times, okay, when they're going to ask you what the name is, you're going to say, he would say, Meira. Okay, let's do that again. Meira. Came time to ask what the name was. And guess what he said? Meira. Finished. So I remember when I had to name my son Morty, like Mordechai, so I wanted to name him after my father's brother. And my father said his name was Gedalia. Fine. Came time to announce it. And the moil, for some reason, says, Mordechai Gedalyahu. And that's it. The name was Mordechai Gedalyahu. It was crazy. And he came after, he said, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I did this. Like, I didn't say Mordechai Gedalia. I said Mordechai Gedalyahu. I went to my father after, and my father said that really was his brother's name. For short, they said Gedalia. So I'm just trying to tell you, like, it's just an interesting thing. So what is it that Hashem says, I do this all, I send you through this, you're going to have this thing, I'm going to renew you for the sake of my name. So what's God's essence, right? We call him Hashem, which means the name. That's what Hashem means, okay, the name, okay? Yeah. So what is it? So he's doing this for you to develop within yourselves because you have Tselem Elohim. You have a godly part of you inside. So now we have to look at Hashem's name. Hashem's name is the name of everything. All the millions of, not millions, but there's many names Hashem has, right? Shalom and Makom and Rachamim and so many, and Shaddai and all these different names that Hashem has. So what's Hashem saying? The names and all their character traits, that's what I want to see you develop inside of you. I give you all of these tests, right? I give you all of these tests in life going up and down and up and down so that you can develop your godliness. Okay? You can develop holiness like I am holy. You can develop kindness like I am kind. You can develop mercy like I am merciful. You can develop discipline within yourself like I have discipline. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what it means when we're saying for the name of Hashem. Okay? Now we're going to have to just, okay. So then we were saying, so where do you see David develop a lot of these characters of Hashem, this characteristic of discipline and of kindness and of mercy when he was a shepherd? And so too Moshe. So a lot of times Hashem picks shepherds. And what's interesting about shepherds is it's not a very famous, exciting, brilliant job. Like David HaMelech was from 8 brothers, 8 boys. 8 boys were in the family. He was the youngest. They looked at him very disparagingly. He wasn't treated very well. Every one of them was very chashiv. His father was a Rosh Yeshiva of 600,000 students. That's an incredible, title, right? His brother was very, like, they were warriors. They like fought in the army with Shaul. And David HaMelech, they made him be a shepherd. Okay, so a shepherd was like kind of a nobody. You know what I mean? It's not a prestigious thing. It doesn't show any great education. It doesn't show any great anything, right? To be a shepherd, you'd have to have a lot of humility, right? To be a shepherd, you have to not have very much ego, right? To be a shepherd is you have to be very caring outside of you. And it's not like the sheep can necessarily turn around and go, thank you, you're the best. Like it's kind of, you're not exactly going to get fame and fortune out of it. So it's just interesting that this is where David HaMelech greatness came from. And sometimes I kind of feel like we're just going to finish up with this and we'll do more next week because we didn't finish this whole Tehillim. So I'm just saying, like, that's kind of our lives. Like, our lives are not always the most brightest, big stars and everybody knows us and our names are in lights and we're the best this and we're the best that. It's exactly what we were saying in the Parsha, right? Like, where did you see Avram's real greatness? The fact that he ran and tried to take care of 3 Bedouin strangers. That he would go himself and check the meat and clean it and cut and make the dough and like all the mundane, right? It's being that person in the mundane, connecting to Hashem in that everyday that really shows your greatness. And this is like the greats of our nation. This is their humble beginnings, right? Like Moshe isn't, a big macher till he's 80. You know what I mean? So what did you do those first 80 years? Those first 80 years is what makes you who you are, right? Who made him who he was at 80, and then he rose from there. But it's sort of from taking care of just the things around you with bitachon, with love. That's where the greatness lies. That's what we're seeing here in the Tehillim, and that's where your bitachon can grow from. Okay, is everybody good? So I feel badly because I don't see Sandy Klish, and my house is under major construction. Like, if you notice, I'm in another room again. Because the other room is
color.
What?
Notice that it's blue.
Yeah, it is blue. So, like, this one is like Baruch Hashem, the ceiling is staying. Okay, the other one, the ceilings are full. Whatever, it's all good. Okay, so I'm going to say the Shir Hama'alos. I think it's 121. If we could say it together, we're saying it for everybody who needs a shidduch. Okay, it's like for all these beautiful people, the men and the women, all of them. Hashem, no matter what age, no matter where, everyone wants to have this beautiful home with the Shekhinah in it. So please, Hashem, help us. Okay, so I think it's Kuf Chaf Aleph is 121. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. Stop.